Yeah. Hello, welcome once more to my channel. So today we'll be chatting about the second part of the CELPIP test, which we started earlier. We're going to be talking about the reading test. I'll just go ahead and share my screen and we'll quickly start. If you missed the first video on CELPIP listening test, you can go back and watch the video. I would go ahead and present my screen and start. Right. Let's see. So yes, I'm good to go. All right, welcome once more to CELPIP preparation test. So this is the tips and strategies for preparing for the CELPIP general test. This is based on my experience. So I'm currently sharing everything that helps me towards preparing for my exams. So let's go ahead and start. So the first thing I want you to know about the reading test is that the reading test has 4 components. For the first part of the test, you're reading to get you're reading for correspondence. For the second part, you're reading to apply an image. For the third part, you're reading for information. For the fourth part, you're reading for viewpoints. So the test is usually around 60 minutes or like 55 minutes. In some components, you might get the test twice. In that instance, I would plead with you to take it easy, slow, try to answer every question as much as possible because you don't know what which of the tests you'll be graded for. So you might say, for instance, in part one, you might get the test twice and the content of the test might be different. So you wouldn't know if it's the first test that you're getting that you'll be graded for, or if it will be the second test that you'll be graded for. So you need to be mindful of that and you need to prepare ahead of time. So after getting the listening test prompt, you finish the test. The second part of the test will be the reading aspect. So why listening to the instructions or like the prompts that will come before the questions, use this time to also prepare your scrap paper if you're going to be using that, or if you have been practicing with your scrap paper. This will help you to manage your time well and be prepared for the test. So for the reading test, you would have both the question and you would have both the question and answer and the paragraph on the same screen. So the screen will be divided into two. So you would have this side with the information that you need, and then here you will have the question and answer on the same screen. So you would have more like a drop-down menu for some of the questions. For some questions, it might be paraphrased and you might just need to include A, B, C, D, or E if you don't find an option. We'll get into that, a breakdown of the different structures, but this is just a general overview. So as you go along, you would also notice that the tests start getting difficult. And when I mean it start getting difficult, you might start meeting complex grammars, or like you might need more strategies compared to the first part or the second part. So you might need to use your knowledge of paraphrasing, you might need to use skimming, scanning, or you might even need to like know the topic sentence and then know what the topic for each paragraph is in order to get the answer. But let's go ahead and discuss the resources. So the first resources that I will recommend is the CELPIP webinar. So they have the Reading Pro. You can check on the website on the days that they will be hosting the webinars. But if you eventually missed any of the webinars or none of the webinars will be going on before you write your exams, I recommend you go back to the previous webinars that have been recorded on their YouTube channel and watch it. Even if you've attended the webinar earlier, I do also still recommend that you go back to their YouTube channel to actually take a look at the webinar closely, study the questions, study the strategies, try to know which strategy to apply to which part of the test, and then use that in your practice because this will help you to improve your practice time, like the amount of time you spend, and it will also help you to improve your skills towards getting a good score for the CELPIP test. So aside from the CELPIP webinar, I also have your YouTube channel. So I do recommend the CELPIP YouTube channel. resources. Aside from the webinars, like previous webinars, they also have the CELPIP Live, where maybe they would have like an expert or like an exam grader or like an external person that would come in and they would chat about, let's say, for instance, test one. It could even be to talk about the general test, like talking about strategies, tips that you look out for. I use those resources a lot. My number one key recommendation in terms of resources is to use the CELPIP website, CELPIP official YouTube channel. They have a lot of resources, but that's not to say that I didn't consult other resources, especially for part 3. So for part 3, I will recommend the Australian Academy. The instructor they have actually took time to explain the CELPIP part 3, the tips to answer the question, because I feel like part 3 is very tricky and you don't want to miss points on the part 3. During my own time, I had like 2 different tests. So I finished writing the first component of part 3. I had another component of part 3, and that's very difficult because it had to do with a strong, they had more complex vocabulary for part 3. So I would also include the link in the comments for you to take advantage of it. So the third resources, or the third category of resources that I would recommend, is the CELPIP free and paid materials. So CELPIP has ebooks, they do have practice tests. So the ebooks are not free, but if you have the capacity to actually purchase it, I would recommend, because I read the ebook. I actually bought the ebook. I read the ebook to understand the structure of the exams and the practice. But that's not to say that the free resources that they have is also not adequate enough. I use almost all the free resources that was available, including the free practice test, the free, is it the free, like the free resource materials that is being provided. I think I have mine here. So mine is printed in black and white. I don't know if you can see it, but I had to print mine, and mine had like the information, like I had to even take notes on mine as well. So I printed it out because they talked about the question type, what to look out for, like different strategies for different stages of the test. So in addition to that, you can also look at CELPIP website to see other reading materials that would help you to improve your score for the CELPIP exams. All right, so going ahead, just like the listening test, the reading test also have the scoring chart that is being used. So for the CELPIP reading, once you have, like, let's say for instance, they grade your points between 10 to 12. So for 10 to 12, you would be aiming to have gotten like 33 to 38 of the total score for the reading test. So um because I'm not an examiner, or like I haven't ever marked the CELPIP exam before in the past, I wouldn't be able to speak to how it's graded. But if you attend the CELPIP webinars, any of the webinars, you would listen and you can ask the instructors question on how this is being graded. But I just provided this information just for reference sake. This is actually, I took this picture from the free material for the reading component of the test that I used in practicing. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, now we're back to like the breakdown. So one of the feedback that I got from the listening test was that people wanted me to like use illustrations to explain things better. So I'll just go ahead and use this extract that I got from the YouTube official channel. When I was preparing for my exam, I had to take screenshot of the test. Like I used it in personal practice, but there's few things I want you to take note of. But this is not to say that you shouldn't attend the webinars. So here you would see the time around here. You will see that for the first part, you need 10 minutes. And for this 10 minutes, you will need to answer the first part of the question and also answer the second part of the question. So you see, this is an email. It's more like an email. So in this aspect of it, to my own understanding, I feel like this is the easiest part of the reading test. If you ask me, this is the easiest component. You need to be very quick. So skimming and scamming comes in handy for this test. So you can also skim and scan each paragraph to know what it's asking for. So one technique that I used was that I just knew that I just applied every paragraph to every question. So like the top questions, I would just read the beginning of the email to get the answer for this. This might have changed after when I wrote the test, but that was what I did. So I would read like every paragraph and get the information that I need to answer. So I would recommend, if you can, to read the question and then skim through the whole passage. That way you can locate the information, you can locate who is writing, the purpose of writing, what are the keywords, and then quickly get the answers. Use the drop-down menu. You can also use the elimination method, A, B, C, D, and then strike out the ones that you think that wouldn't be applicable. That way, even if you're contesting between two answers, it would help you to now go back to the question, like go back to the passage to see, okay, what is the information here? Was it paraphrased? What is the type of question? Is it a specific question? Is it a general information question, or is it inference question as well? So you also need to identify, oh, I've already mentioned this, you need to identify the essential information such as the writer, repeat, the recipient, the primary purpose. So you will see that the first part of the question, which had 6 parts, it's also related to the second part of the question, which has like 5 parts. So in this question, you will still be using the same package, the same passage to answer. Here you can always scroll up and down, and you can always scroll up and down while you're writing the test for both of the components. All right, so for the second part of the test, this is more like a corresponded. So here they might be testing your knowledge. So you might get general questions, inference questions. For this question that was used on the CELPIP YouTube channel when I watched it, it was more like what the passage was about. You talk about, here they are making reference to paragraph 1. So you have to go back to paragraph 1 to find out the information that you need to fill in here. So that's really the tip that helped me with paragraph 1. I tried as much as I can to use my time effectively. So the 10 minutes, I tried to use it effectively. So after answering all the questions, if I still had time, say for instance, I finished within 8 minutes, I would use 2 minutes to cross-check my answers to make sure that I have given in my best in terms of answering the questions. If I have doubt within that 2 minutes, I would also use the elimination method. So on my piece of paper, I would have A, B, C, D, and then eliminate, eliminate. So say for instance, I only have to deal with C and D, then I would know that, okay, between C and D, can I go back to the passage and find the information I need? But in a situation where time is going, instead of not answering any question, I would just choose one and just leave it alone and just move on with the test. All right, so getting to part 2. So part 2 is about reading to apply a diagram. So here, your main focus for this particular test is that you're going to be studying the diagram that is being provided. So sometimes it will be visuals like flyers, brochure, business cards, or like posters. You never can tell what you will get. So you just need to take time to study like ahead of time. To you can also get like flyers, visuals, or like brochures that you have around the house, or like you see published online. Try to take time to study these flyers. See if you can see like information. What is the key message that the flyer is about? How are the images organized? You need to see what images, so which one comes first. If they are like information about money or like quality, you need to take cognizance of that. Also, comparison might come into place here. You might have to compare, but you need to study the image as quickly as possible. Like for instance, if you look at this one, you will see that this has to do with a business card. And by the side here, you would have the question that you are being asked. So here, this is an email. So here you're just going ahead to fill in the information for this email. So here, there's a drop-down menu. This is to, so who is this, the person writing to? So you have to use this image to find out the information and then fill up the information. In places where you're not sure about that, in terms of the answers, always remember to use the elimination methods. For questions you're not sure of the answers, again, aside from the elimination method, you can skip answer the next question, and then come back to it. So you would spend more, you wouldn't spend all your time trying to crack one question when you have like 5 questions to answer. So that's just my major tip for part 2. Let me see. Okay, so there is also the second part of the question. So aside from the email, so the second one is like a drop-down menu as well. So you have to choose like the best option. In this question, this second part of the test, you might be tested based on general information, inference, or like specific information. You just need to be as quick, like you just need to quickly skim and scan through the images, know what it is about, and then use the information that you find here to answer as much as possible. All right, so moving back to the third aspect of the reading test. Give me 1 second, I need to drink water. Share. Okay, so for part 3 has to do with information. Now that, to be honest with you, part 3 was more like the toughest question for me, or the toughest part of the test for me, because the language is complex, is tricky too, right? So for part 3, you will get 4 paragraphs, and it will be titled A, B, C, D. And then it's like the information is not applicable. So the first thing you need to do, you need to identify what this passage is all about, the entire passage. So what is it about? You have to scan as quickly as possible, see what the keywords are. You can see that this passage itself is about dragonflies. So once you've identified what the key message of the passage is, then you have to quickly identify what the specific topic is for every paragraph. So say, for instance, I'll give you an instance. Paragraph A is talking about how dragons, or like futures of the dragon. That's your paragraph topic for A. B is talking about how dragon, I'm not applying this instance to this passage. I'm just making up my own examples, like in terms of the paragraph. Maybe B is talking about how animals interact. C, animals interact with dragonflies. C can be talking about the living condition of dragonfly, like that. So once you know what the topic sentence is and the paragraph sentence is, you quickly head over to the questions. So dragons can be used as a form of pest and insect control. So which paragraph? So they have paraphrased this. So say, for instance, that paragraph B talked about the fact that dragonflies lives around human beings, like some people can use them as pest or illness control. It's not like it's expressly stated like this is what it is, but they've paragraphed or they've paraphrased the information in such a way. It's just like you're given a paragraph and you're asked to summarize this in one sentence. So that's what this reading for information is about. So you try as much as you can to paraphrase what you understand with the paragraph topic to be, and then use that information to apply. Say, for instance, none of this passage like A, B, C, D talks about dragon being used as a form of pest and illness control. Then this is the point where you would just go ahead and choose E. But before you do that, you need to make sure that there's none of the paragraph actually talked about this, because if there's a paragraph that talked about it, if it's paragraph A, you have to choose A. If it's paragraph B that talked about it, you have to choose B. But in any case, if none of the paragraph talked about the information on the question, just go ahead and choose C. So usually you would have these questions and it would be like 9 questions. I don't know, maybe they might have changed the structure, but sometimes it could be 9 questions or 10 questions. And the time that you need for this question is 9 minutes. So in this particular aspect of the test, you need to spend maybe 1 minute for each question, but I would say you need to spend less than 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds for each questions, because you need to remember that you still need to spend like 1 or 2 minutes like scanning the whole paragraph, trying to identify the topic sentence, paragraph sentence. But my recommendation here is try it out, listen to like the informations from the webinar, try practicing on your own to see what works for you. In practicing, you will identify, okay, what are your challenges with this question type? How can you get better with practice? Practice, 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 practice. So once you know the strategy for this test and other components, try practicing. In fact, if possible, try to sit like as if you're in an exam condition, like try to sit in for 3 hours just to practice, to see how you can improve your speed, manage your time, and how you can get better. That was what helped me. So aside from knowing the strategies, I try to practice. I even bought like some of the I bought one of the paid tests 2 days before the exam to practice on my own to see, just because I felt like the free test that they had online was a bit repetitive. And because I had already used those tests to practice on my own like a lot of time, I felt I was used to the information. So I already knew some of the answers for different questions. So I was like, no, let me go get the the one of the paid tests. So I just bought I think one pack, it had like three questions, and I tried to answer as much as possible. So that would be my trick, my strategy for part 3. If you have any questions, please don't forget to include it in the comment sections as well. So part 4 has to do with viewpoint. So here you're reading information that is being provided. For part 4, you would spend 12 minutes and you would have the first aspect of the test and then the second part of the test. So see this question. So part 4, see it as viewpoints. Like you have an opinion, I have an opinion. So it's like there just like I think it's almost similar to listening for viewpoints for the listening test. I feel like the CELPIP exams, they are connected together, but see part 4 as someone has an opinion and that person is A. Another person has a different opinion and that person is B. There might be somebody else that would have a different opinion from A and B, and that person might be C. Or there might be someone else that agrees to A. So you need to look out for information to identify what is the general opinion that is presented in the test. Is there a different opinion? And identify the people who is saying what is the major topic that is being discussed, and then you apply that information. So you see, for instance, the question they're asking here, the first question is, the article is mainly about what? So I see that here we have the Canadian government and the issue of funding visual and performing arts. So they are talking about the issue of um, Canadian government funding like visual and performing arts. So the first paragraph should be able to give you like a general overview of what it is about. So here they're asking you specific question about paragraph 1. It provides a what. So when they ask you question about a specific paragraph, you have to move directly to this paragraph to find the information that you are being asked about. So that would be my strategy as well for part 4. I would still say go ahead and practice as much as possible. Practice, practice, practice. Read as much as you can. Try to read complex paragraphs. Read extensively. Try to build your vocabulary, and at the same time practice. Like I just feel like once you know the strategies, try as much as you can to practice, practice, practice. The questions are similar, and I feel like the test is connected. Listening test is one way or the other connected to the reading test. And in that exam hall, when you're writing the exam, you can't guarantee that you have the same question as the person next to you. You can have a different question. The next person closer to you might have a different question. The other person around you, like like, let's say for it, everybody would have different tests. There will be instances that someone else might have similar tests with you, but you can't know because everybody is just sitting in front of their computers. So I would say practice, 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 practice. All right. So in general, let me just go ahead and recap the tips that have worked for me aside from um the individual structure of the test. So I tried as much as I could to read the surrounding text in the paragraph when I encounter words that I do not understand. Does the word have like positive meanings or negative meaning, or can the words are like sometimes when I read the surrounding paragraph, once I identify a word I don't know, it helps me to understand the paragraph or even to identify the answer that I'm looking for in that particular paragraph. So you will notice that most answers will be paraphrased. So you need to start getting used to identifying paraphrases in documents, or even learning how to paraphrase on your own. That would help. Look out for keywords that would help you to prevent clues of answers you're looking for. So keywords will help you to quickly identify a particular paragraph that has the information that you need to answer a particular question. So especially, I just wanted to circle back to the second tip, which is most answers will be paraphrased. This is especially applicable in part 3. You need to be mindful of part 3, part 4, those are the toughest ones, but part 3, basically for me, in my own assessment, it might be different for another person. All right. Time management, I've already talked about this, but you need to try as much as you can to practice under exam condition just to make sure you're managing your time well and you finish in adequate time. And that would help you. If you finish way ahead of time, that would actually help you to go through the questions and then use the remaining time to cross-check your answers and make sure that you're getting in the right answers for each question. All right, I've also talked about the elimination method for answers. Very, very vital. Always remember elimination method works well for the test, whether it's the listening, reading, reading. Well, basically, elimination method would be applicable for the listening and reading because the writing aspect is basically your own inputs, and the speaking is also like your outputs, you talking and following the structure and the strategy that is required. So remember that you need to identify the question type. If it's a specific question, like if they're asking for specific information, if it's a general information question, or if it's like an inference question, you need to be sure of that. Always remember to get the practice test. If you can't afford to buy any of the paid test, you can always get the free practice test that is available on the CELPIP website. Practice, 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 practice. Aside from knowing the strategies, practice as much as you can. The last thing that I have here is to learn sentence structure, vocabulary, and pronunciation as well. This would help you in the test. So with this, we've come to the end of the tips and strategies that I had that helped me in writing the CELPIP exams. So I do hope that this is helpful to you as well. I will go ahead and include the links to some of the resources that I mentioned earlier in the comments. That way you can check it out. The reading and the speaking test will come shortly after this. I'm wishing you good luck in your exams. If you have any specific questions, please leave them in the comment section. I will get to it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, subscribe to the channel, and share to your loved ones that might be writing the CELPIP exam. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye.